Now let's talk about the second derivative test. This is a really cool test I think you're going to enjoy. Go on and write down the definition. Suppose you have a function so that the first derivative is 0. That is, you have a relative max or a relative min, and the second derivative exists. If the second derivative is positive, then you're going to have a relative minimum at that point. While if the second derivative is negative, you have a relative maximum. Now, if the second derivative is 0, this test fails and you have to try something else. Let's look at some diagrams. Now, remember I told you to look at the curve. Do you see this kind of curves downward? It is kind of frowning. Now, if the second derivative is 0 and the tangent at this point is 0, then that tells me that this has got to be the highest point in the curve in this interval. And so this is a maximum. Now what about when f double prime is positive? Then you have this smiling, but the slope at this point is 0. So you have to have a minimum at this point. Let's try a couple problems. All right, if f of x is negative 3x to the 5th plus 5x squared, let's test it. All right, first thing you have to do is take the first derivative. F prime is negative 15x to the 4th plus 15x squared, and f double prime, I don't know, that's not writing, is negative 30 x cubed plus 5, let's try 60. Sorry about that. Make a mistake on the AP test, just cross it out. F double prime is negative 60 x cubed plus 30x. Now, let's look at where this is 0. All right, it's defined everywhere. So f double prime is 0, where, let's see, let's factor out 30x. So this is going to be negative 2x squared plus 1. All right, so f double prime is 0 when x is 0, so that's 1 point. And the other one is when negative 2x squared plus 1 is 0, or when x is plus or minus the square root of 1/2. All right? And I'm going to leave it like that form. All right, so let's check this at, let's look from, say, what have I got? I've got 0. Let's look at negative 1. So let's look at x equals negative 1. If x equals negative 1, then I needed to make a chart over here. F of negative 1 is negative 1, so that's 3 minus 5. Negative 1, no, it's plus 5, so it's positive 2. F of 0 is 0, while f of 1 is 2. All right? F of 1 is, yeah. All right, so that's about right. So let's look at the point x equals negative 1, y equals 2. What's the sign of the second derivative at negative 1? Well, that's going to be, let's see, f double prime of negative 1 is 30 times negative 1 times negative 2, negative 1 squared plus 1. So this is negative, negative. So the sign is actually positive. Because that's a positive, we're looking at a relative minimum. All right. Let's look at f of 1. at f of 1, what is the second derivative? All right, so let's look at f as 1, 2. Let's look at the second derivative here. Second derivative gives me negative 60 plus 30. This is negative. All right, so f double prime of 1 is negative. So this is a relative max. All right, now let's go to f of 0. 0, 1, 0. The second derivative at 0 is 0. So here the test fails. All right. Why don't you give a problem, give it a try, stop the video when you're done, and finish your homework.